It's the first letter in the Hebrew pronunciation of the people of Israel, the Jewish people, Yisrael. It's the first letter, and there's just this fascinating tie-in to how this little tiny letter has so much importance and points to, it's in everything within the Hebrew written language. And so it's ascribed a lot of importance. In Matthew 5, verse 18, when Jesus says, I truly tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. When he said that, every Hebrew listener would have understood that he was talking, what he was talking about. This little tiny letter has such significance in the Hebrew written language. And even in and of itself, it's reminiscent of the Jews say it reminds them of a hand outstretched. It reminds them of that. And even further, when they take it apart, the strokes have to be with such precision that there's actually a little in the handwritten version, there's a little tag that comes off this end right down here. And if that's missing, again, the smallest letter and that little tag end, if that's missing from a written scroll, the entire scroll is considered invalid. And it'll be burnt, it'll be cast, or it'll be buried, it'll be cast away. So they ascribe a lot of meaning to that. Now, one commentator, and it's a bit of a stretch, but it's beautiful nonetheless. It said that Yahweh, if you take the meaning, like Yodh means hand, if you take some of the meanings of each letter in that tetragram or that four-letter name for God, you get hand, behold, nail, behold. Hand, behold, nail, behold. Even from the very get-go, everything points to Jesus. Everything points to Jesus. So it kind of sends shivers down your spine when you think of that. It's so beautiful. Nevertheless, we're going to study these 8 verses tonight. And in the original Hebrew language, every verse would have began with the letter, or with a word beginning with the letter Yod. Verse 73. Your hands, speaking of that, your hands, God, made me and formed me. Give me understanding to learn your commands. We're going to split this verse up a little bit, and we're going to take it apart because I want to spend a little bit of time here with the first part. Your hands made me and formed me. We are created by an amazing God. We are created by a mind that is virtually impossible for us as mere humans to understand. Spurgeon put it this way: it is profitable to remember our creation. When we recognize that we are created beings, it humbles us, it inspires us, it fills us with awe. We're not just some random accumulation of dirt and molecules. We're lovingly fashioned by a loving God. Spurgeon goes on. It's profitable to remember our creation. It is pleasant to see that the divine hand has had much to do with us. For it never moves apart from the divine thought. God's doing never is very far from his thinking. It excites reverence, gratitude, and affection towards God when we view him as our maker, putting forth the careful skill and power of his hands in our forming and fashioning. And I love this part. He took a personal interest in us, making us with his own hands. Look in the mirror. He loves that face. We talked about this. He loves that face, wrinkles and all. Crooked nose, eyes that don't line up. He loves that about you. He loves that about you. He didn't just go, let's see what we get. He formed you and molded you. You were not a random accumulation of DNA. You are DNA. But that code was written so wonderfully for you. That the opening verse echoes what we read in Genesis 2:7. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and he became a living being. God formed Adam, knit him together, wove him together, molded him into the perfect image that he desired. And the same